Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name is Jason Topsy. I am the communications director for AARP Indiana, joined by Bill Moreau, the founder and CEO of the Indiana Citizen. We will hear from him in a second to talk about the work that he's doing this election season. But first, want to talk a little bit about what AARP is doing throughout the country and especially here in Indiana around a very important election that's coming up. As we all know, in the current times that we're living in with regards to this pandemic, it's even more important to protect the health and safety of older Hoosier voters. And that means things including like protecting Social Security, Medicare, lowering prescription drug costs, and something we're going to talk a lot about today, ensuring you can vote safely. And that's what AARP is going to be working on up until this election, is giving you the information about where candidates stand on things like Social Security, Medicare, lowering prescription drug costs, but as well as giving you the information you need so that you can vote safely in this upcoming election, whichever way you choose to do that, whether that be in person or the ability to vote from home by absentee. So with that said, Bill, just want to say thanks for being here, and just tell folks out there a little bit about the Indiana Citizen, the One More Voice campaign, what you're working on, as well as maybe a little background of how this all came about and why you got into the mix on this issue.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. It's especially uh, gratifying to be asked to participate through AARP. AARP has been a very strong supporter of our efforts right from the beginning. So we appreciate that support because our unifying principle is to encourage more Hoosiers to vote without caring how they'll vote, connected to unbiased information about the candidates and the issues. And we'll get into that, I'm sure, a little bit later. But how did we come to be? Well, I'm trying to fail retirement. So at the end of 2019, I retired from the practice of law at Barnes and Thornburg. And in advance of that, my wife, Ann, and Ann's the other co-founder of the Indiana Citizen Education Foundation, try to decide how we could give back something to the state that we love so much and has done so much for us. And we looked around and looked at the metrics that have a way of telling a story about Indiana's civic health, and they're not good. There's a publication that comes out every 2 years called the Indiana Civic Health Index, and it shows Indiana consistently in the bottom 10 of states, especially for turnout, in the bottom of states for registration, and some other studies have shown Indiana in the bottom 10 of states for civic literacy. So how can we make a contribution using everything that we've learned to try to improve the civic health of Indiana? For those of us who spend any amount of time in politics and government, we should be worried about the health of our democracy. And the health of the Hoosier democracy is really pretty poor at the moment. So we incorporated, became a 501c3, so we're strictly nonpartisan. And we have attracted broad bipartisan support, both on our board of directors and among our financial supporters. So if you go to onemorevoice.com and click on the Indiana Citizen button, you'll see the members of our board and you'll see our donors posted in real time. And you'll see the names of Hoosiers from literally across the political spectrum, joined by the common goal of trying to do something about Indiana's civic health.
Okay. So how's the efforts been going thus far? And kind of what are some of the things that you guys have been doing to help improve that health?
So as we started working on this in 2019, we were told that we should raise and spend $3 million in order to do something meaningful in this space. And what does that entail? So first, it begins with the universe of our fellow Hoosiers who are not yet registered at all. And here I would want to point out that if you go to the Secretary of State's website, you'll see a number for registration that is way higher than it actually is. And by the way, this is no criticism of the Indiana Secretary of State. Heck, I was once Deputy Secretary of State myself. So this is a problem that's common to all states, is the voter registration rolls tend to be inflated by virtue of death and people moving. So the Indiana Civic Health Index would indicate that there are about 1,700,000 Hoosiers in the voting age population. 1,700,000 were not even registered at all. So we wanted to focus first on registration. Also working on civic literacy by building a platform of unbiased information about the candidates and the issues. And then between the close of registration on October 5th and November 3rd, really doing something intentional about turnout. Well, that's an expensive proposition, right? Because in order to track down those who are unregistered, that's a challenge. And so what you do is you try to break the unregistered up into age cohorts. And when your resources are limited, this won't surprise you, you start with the youngest voters. So we have invested heavily in social media advertising to try to reach the 18 to 30-year-old age group, and it's working. So through very expensive social media advertising, we're creating a pathway through the One More Voice campaign. Take folks through our website and into the Secretary of State's website, where you can register in under 3 minutes. Whatever else can be said about the complexity of the election process, in this day and age, registration is very straightforward. If you have a valid Indiana driver's license or a valid Indiana state ID, you've already given up to Indiana government all of the personal information that the Secretary of State needs to determine whether you're eligible to vote. And we have been registering people through our website very continuously. We're having some success there, not as much as we'd hope because of limitation of resources. So it's registration, education, and turnout. And it's always the same ingredients, right? This is nothing new. I think what's new is about what we're doing is that we are really trying to put some resources behind it and to create this platform of unbiased information about the candidates and the issues.
Well, it's good to hear that you're having some success getting with the younger voting bloc population. Obviously, the 50 plus voters that AARP always advocates for is the group that always votes, that and you can always depend on. But it's also, yes, from our perspective, also recognizing that there is this next generation that is coming up, and wanting to see them get involved as well. And so speaking of, so the deadline to register to vote is October 5th. And so that is at the time of us recording this, rapidly approaching in a couple of weeks. So there's still time, when you see this, there will still be time, for you to register to vote. So make sure that you go and do that if you have not done that yet. So after somebody is registered, then we get into that next phase that you talked about. Let's talk a little bit about what people should expect, especially with everything that's going on with regard to COVID-19 and things of that nature from, October 6th until Election Day.
So let's think about this in a couple of ways. One, in the sort of the mechanics of voting. And of course, the window's now open for folks who look a lot like me, 65 and older, to go request our absentee ballot. And one of the absentee ballot has come into the Moreau household to Mrs. Moreau. I don't know whether Mr. Moreau has been flagged or something like that. But, so that system seems to be working. If you're in one of those 13 categories that are summarized in 12 boxes on the absentee voter application form. Remember, all these discussions about vote by mail, right? We have absentee voting by mail. And it's a two-step process. So you have to apply for an absentee ballot. When you sign that form, it's under penalties for perjury. And as a lawyer, there's all this discussion going on right now about, who's going to check. Okay, well, when you sign that under penalties of perjury, you better be telling the truth that you fit into one of those categories, would be my advice. So that permits you to mail in your absentee ballot in your return. So we're encouraging everybody, if you're in one of those categories and you're going to vote absentee vote by mail, get your application in now. In fact, I'm not even going to tell you what the deadline is for getting your application is. Because if I tell you that, it's too close to the general election. And with all the issues surrounding the mail, I'm not even going to tell you what that date is. Just do it now, okay? And then get it back and turn it back right away, right? Particularly if you've had a chance to read up on the candidates and the issues and you're going to vote for. Stick it in that envelope that you received, self-addressed stamped envelope. Get it in the mail as soon as you can. Or if you're really worried, hand deliver it to the county clerk's office. Get your vote. Then there's that period in between October 6th and November 3rd in which early voting is permitted. So in every county, early voting is permitted at the county clerk's office. And then then it's sort of a county by county analysis as to whether a county has opted into vote centers or extended early voting hours. That's in-person voting. It's called absentee in-person voting for reasons that only Indiana law can figure out, even though everybody's eligible for it, because this question comes up all the time. When the word absentee is added into this period, people go, well, don't I have to be eligible to vote? No. Anybody can vote during this. Any registered eligible voter can vote during this window. And then comes November 3rd, which of course is election day. And we've got that 12-hour period in which you can vote in person. And it's useful to remember, sorry to go off on the lawyer in me, it's useful to remember that the Indiana election code has a bias, and I say that in the most neutral, legalistic term. It's a bias in favor of voters showing up in person on November 3rd between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. And so everything else is sort of an exception to that, right? Of how you work backwards from that legal premise.
Okay. So there are options that are there for you with regards to how you want to vote. That's something that we've hit on already, is that whatever you're choosing to do, how you want to vote, let's do it in the safest way possible for you, or that makes you feel comfortable. So if you fit into one of those categories and you want to vote absentee by mail, get that form in now. As soon as you get your ballot back, turn it around, send it back as soon as you can, or as you said, Bill, to go to deliver it yourself to the clerk's office. And then
.com and to pitch our website again, onemorevoice.com, that'd be onemorevoice.com. You can actually go there and you print off the absentee ballot application, fill it out and mail it in. There is a way to go in to the Secretary of State's website and request your absentee ballot online. It's a fairly new system, so we're encouraging folks to do it the old-fashioned way. Print off the form, fill it out, sign it, mail it back to the county clerk, or county election office is actually the better characterization.
Okay. And then so the quicker you turn that around, and then I believe you can go online into the Secretary of State's website once you log in your information to track where your absentee ballot
that is true,
in the
Jason.
process.
Good catch.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I guess that's something that's fairly for those that are maybe worried about whether or not it's going to get there or where it is in the process, that's available as well. And then obviously if you're going to vote either absentee in person in the early vote, or you're going to vote in person on election day, The key here is to make sure that you stay as safe as possible. Allow yourself plenty of time. We're anticipating, hopefully, because of the work that you've done, Bill, that this will be a higher turnout election for this upcoming one. That if you do so, that you make sure that you allow yourself a lot of time, because there should be fully expect there to be long lines, and especially when you factor in the social distancing on top of just the number of people that are going to vote. The lines are going to be pretty long, and you're going to have to reserve a lot of time in order to make that happen. So this is us just saying that there's options for you. Whatever that option is that you want to vote, make sure that you prepare accordingly for that. Well, I think, Bill, that is a good spot for us to wrap it up. I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate the work that you're doing. Once again, folks can go to onemorevoice.com to learn more about and you can register to vote for that. Indiana Citizen is where you can go to get a lot of information about the candidates that are going to be on your ballot. And then, of course, AARP's got AARP.org/IN for the Indiana website is where you can go to get all of our information about specific Indiana voting things. And I just encourage everybody out there to stay safe out there, participate in the process. And yeah, Bill, is there anything else you wanted to add before we go?
I appreciate the chance to talk about the work that we're doing together. This could not, this is said, right? Every 2 or 4 years that this is the most important election in our history. One thing I would talk about just for a second, and it goes to the core of our One More Voice campaign, is don't let the presidential election, don't let the governor's election, or wherever you think about that, or whether you think it's a runaway, however you may think about the math of those races, deter you from voting. Right? Because your voice really matters as you go work your way down the ballot. State Senate, state representative, the county offices, township offices, school board offices are going to be on the ballot in November. And your voice, your vote really matters, really can make a difference in those races.
Well said. I agree with that statement entirely. So we appreciate you taking the time, and everybody out there, stay safe, and we will talk to you very soon more about some of the work that we're doing around voting in this coming election. Take care.